I'm gonna make you listen to the whole track.
How many kick drum layers do you need for a proper industrial techno kick drum? Is Ableton's amp the best option for kick drum distortion? To answer this and many more questions, I invited to my channel Whøman, a French producer whose tracks have already seen numerous labels, including Falsive, Industrial Violence, 96 Noisia, and many more. In today's episode, he will show you an easy yet effective way of making industrial techno kick drums using many different samples. What's better than a whole hour of talking about the kick drums? If you want to support Whøman, please follow his Instagram, check out his music, and we will move on to Ableton now. Please show us how do you work with the kick drums.
Yep. So when I always begin my tracks by I'm always starting with my kicks. So what I used to do a lot on my other projects is already group some channels. On the group, I'm putting 2 amps, one rock, one heavy mode, and the gain is a little bit higher on the rock one than on the heavy one. Actually, the rock one is gonna give you that crispy, gritty, high frequencies on your kick. Meanwhile, the heavy mode is much lower, working way more on the lower harmonics. So I'm putting those ones. It's gonna put a lot of high frequencies that I'm gonna filter. You can hear. So I'm gonna lower them a little. You don't want your channels to be too high, to have a lot of gain, because actually it's just gonna give it like way too more distortion, and it's gonna just destroy your dynamics. So
Meaning that the whole kick drum would be completely flat, yes?
yeah, that's right, completely flat, and that's not what you want. So for the first layer, I'm gonna filter the lower frequencies, because actually we're gonna work on the higher part of the kick. Actually, on this one, we're gonna put a little bit of reverb. Then we're gonna put another amp, and it's gonna glue the reverb and add a little more harmonics on it. Okay, so now we basically have our high parts. So now we're gonna choose a sample that has a punchy low frequency. Okay. I like this one better because it has a way more roundy kick on it. We have this. Actually, we're gonna put another amp on it, and also filter a bit the high frequencies. So now you have a good punchy kick. This amp, particularly the heavy one, is always gonna give you harmonics that will not sound quite good around here. So you might want to lower them a bit, so as you hear now, it's way more balanced.
Yes, as you have said earlier, you are using the heavy distortion style, so we can assume that it focuses and emphasizes the low end again. And
Yeah.
it might happen that after using that heavy distortion style, too much of these MIDI frequencies that are usually at around 200 Hz
Yeah.
have to be cut.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, it's very nice distortion. It adds the amp, but it's really not the cleanest one. So you're gonna mess a lot with EQs. Actually, I'm not showing you the easy way of making kicks, but it will surely sound pretty and dirty, and that's what I like. So now we have those. So maybe and I'm gonna enable see the channel delay, and I'm gonna put those two. Okay, in a way that they really emphasize together, because you see we're gaining a little bit of dynamics by doing this.
Yeah,
And
how it's that going to exactly work? Because assuming that it does what does it look like, you are literally delaying one of the kick drum sounds. And why would you want to do that? To, for example, increase the dynamics.
Because actually, as we are using samples, it's not something you sound design, so it's not designed to go together, you know. So you can see on the top layer, the attack is really quick, but on this one, like you can hear that, especially with the amp on it, is the attack is a bit later, so you're really trying to delay this channel, so it emphasizes and it creates this punch actually.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's clear what I explained, but it's really like just trust your ears, and if all by itself you hear that it has some dynamics, you can hear it's punchy, this one too, but when you're adding those two together, so maybe you should try to play with that. And actually, on the lower part of the kick, in many times I delay it later than the top layer, and now for the lower frequencies, I'm gonna put some reverb on it, 100% wet, zero stereo, no spin. I'm gonna take only the lower frequencies.
And this third layer is going to be the sub layer, yes, for these
It's the
lower
sub layer.
frequencies.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, you have your punchy layer, and this one is gonna give it its whole body. So as you hear now, you can hear it has a really subby sound. I'm gonna put some heavy distortion on it again, so it gives it a little bit more of power. And again, it's putting some harmonics I don't want. Okay. And now you can hear it's really deep and heavy. So, and actually from this moment, I'm gonna play with the size of the reverb to find the sound that will fit with those other parts of the reverb to have the sound I want. And also,
You delayed the sub channel by 18 milliseconds, so that's more delays than you have in the second channel. Does
Yeah.
that delay act now as a sidechain compression?
It's not exactly as a sound like it's kind of sidechain compression, but it's more like as for the other layer, it's trying to find the to emphase the lower frequencies of the two channels.
Okay.
So
I would
but
also have two another questions to your kick
yeah,
drum processing. The first one is, if this is a sub layer, then in the equalizer in the end, why didn't you use just a low pass filter? Instead of that, you are using two peak filters. Is there a reason behind that to leave some of the mids in the sub layer?
I don't want it to be like just the lows like this because I could have done it. Yeah, that's right. But actually, I am liking the harmonic is gonna give a little on the mid frequencies too. Like this can be something that is gonna give something in the total. So yeah. So maybe finally we can try to put something with more punch.
Okay, I have one more question.
Yeah.
I've said I wanted to ask a second one. The second question for me is the low frequencies being either in mono or in stereo. When you use the reverb, you put immediately the stereo knob to 0, so it means that the low frequencies are going to be in mono. When you make a kick trance, do you always keep the low end in mono? If yes or not, then why?
I like to have some informations on stereo because it's gonna give like the impression of the kick that is like all around you. You know, it's like hitting you,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of looking for that actually.
You can hear that in KRT and tracks well.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So yeah, so we were okay. So now I'm hearing some clash on frequencies, so I'm gonna work on it. All right. And here we are.
So right now there was problem with two sounds taking the low end area, right? Probably
Yeah, that's right.
the first two channels were trying to occupy the low end, so you had to use a high pass filter in the
Exactly.
layer that was initially supposed to give us only mids and highs.
Yeah, that's right. And for this, I'm actually only trusting my ears. There's something that I didn't do for years actually, and I started doing like for a year from now, a year or two, and it really helped me a lot, especially because I don't have the room with the bass acoustics to be able to trust your ears like in the first time. What could be nice is having a reference track. If you cry when you listen to your kick or if it's okay, directly into Ableton. So you don't do just or your track and export it. And then when you listening to the track, you're just crying. But yeah, when you hear that, you know there's actually a problem. And actually, right now, what I heard is way too much high frequencies again. So now I'm hearing that the low frequencies are not that crystal clear. Okay, and now we can even add some click on it because it's lacking that really attack thing.
So just to be sure, and now you added a reference track for KRTM, and we are using this reference track to get to know how to process our kick drum further.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Like it's gonna help you a lot with dynamics.
And now we
Actually,
want
again,
to add some extra click to the kick, right?
yeah. So to add some extra hit to the kick, we gonna use maybe something really clicky like that. We just really want the transient, so we're gonna get it also. Okay.
Probably this is going to be distorted with amp as well.
Yeah, it's already distorted because of the amps and everything, so yeah. So this click is missing some high ends, so I'm gonna put some overdrive to it. Okay. And I'm gonna EQ it a little. And then what
Can we see now? Could we see now what does the kick drum sound like with and without that click you just added?
Yeah. So it's adding some high-end transients. Those amps they really cut a lot of dynamics. So what I usually do to take care of this is that I'm putting some channel out of the group, and then I'm gonna just I'm gonna take the same layer, low layer here, and then I'm gonna filter the low frequencies. And now, without what I did, sounds like this. And now it's way more kicky.
Because
Yep.
not everything is squashed with amp.
Yep. 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 And so actually, what? Okay.
Our
Let
kick
me show
drum has
you.
already 5 different layers now. Is that enough for you, or we are going to add something more?
Actually, I can have 5 and I can have like 15 channels just for my kicks. The other kicks I did were more like this kind of project, like only 5 or 6 layers on the kick. And yeah, so basically for my other kicks, it would look like this. But if you want, I can show you some of my latest projects, and I can show you how I'm working now to process my kicks, and you'll notice the difference in terms of sounds and also processing, and how it changes everything, especially for dynamics.
Sure, we can take a look into that right after we maybe finish this kick drum.
Yeah,
So we have 2 different approaches and ways to do that.
what I'm gonna do is okay. So as you saw, I just added some more mid frequencies because actually the lower part was way too far away in the mix. So I'm making it closer to us. And because of this, now I have to work on this one again. But actually this one, okay. So now if you want to have it even more gritty, I can add another layer.
And probably this layer now be to just add some texture to the kick drum because there is already punch. We
Yeah,
already have some high end as well as the sub frequencies.
that's right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna okay. And I'm gonna put another heavy amp.
Oh, that's
Okay.
a lot of extra frequency
Yeah.
content.
Okay. I'm gonna cut the
That adds a lot of heaviness to the kick. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And actually, okay. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna duplicate the sub one, and what I do to do sometimes it puts it in rock mode, so it has even more of the lowest frequencies.
Mm-hmm. Even deeper sound.
Yep. No, I'm gonna let this one, and then I'm gonna try to look for the high harmonics.
Won't we have now a problem with two sub layers fighting for the same? Ah, yes, now it's time
Yeah,
for you
that's right.
to use a high pass filter.
Okay. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is duplicate this one too.
Mm-hmm. That's our
Uh,
layer for punch.
yeah, that's right. Because actually the kick parts of the whole kick doesn't match the energy now,
Okay.
because we want something even more gritty than it was at the beginning. To make it a bit more complex.
While we are at the punch subject of the kick drum, I will circle back to the first question I asked you in the beginning, what kind of samples we are looking for. Do you have an experience with layering other than kick drum samples when creating a kick drum? In most industrial techno kick drum tutorials, it is said
Yeah,
to use a reverb to create a rumble reverb sound. But if you browse, for example, some Reddit discussions, you will hear
yeah,
that people also try to make the low end for the kick drum using a sample that is different than a kick drum sample. So, for
yeah,
example, you can take a low pitched tom sample
yeah,
and use it as a sub layer. Or
yeah.
maybe, yes, another simple example would be to layer a clap sample to give the kick drum more attack. And I was asking you how much experience, yes, do you have with using samples other than kick samples to create the kick drum sound? Is it really
Okay.
beneficial or not?
Actually, I'm really using like only like kick samples, or sometimes I'm gonna use toms. I'm gonna use toms and only use the lower frequencies of the tom to give some groove to the kick. When I started producing, I didn't look at any tutorials or anything. I just tried things, and eventually I will find something that works. And at the beginning I was using the wrong samples, some samples that won't fit with the rest. And it's just by listening, trying, failing, that you're gonna educate your ears to really know what's gonna fit with what you are working now. And that's actually the reason why now I'm way more sound designing my own elements. So it's way easier than looking for the right samples to add, because what I want to have is my own sound, you know,
Yes,
and
yes.
it's really difficult to find your own sound using only samples. And actually, that's what I did for a really, really, really long time. And honestly, that's still what I'm doing now. Like I'm still using some samples, but I'm more and more using like Serum to really sound design my elements. So, and it's way easier to work like this, actually. This one maybe has a little too much mid frequencies, so it's cutting the dynamics. Actually, if you want to keep your dynamics, you really have to make some room for each element. Like the things to for me that used to kill a lot of my dynamics, it just like having too much elements that are clashing with each others, and not focusing on the elements that does give the dynamics. Like you're gonna look for your transients, what makes your transients. So you really want to have this mid and high elements to be clear in the mix. Actually, you have to let live your elements, otherwise it will be just like drown in frequencies, you know?
So for you, the key for a good dynamics of for the kick drum is separating the kick elements in terms of frequencies.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
It can be a mess, like you can have some elements that work in the same area, but you know it's like additions. So if you have two separate elements, that sounds good in a mix, but when you add them together, the frequencies that are gonna clash together is gonna be an addition. So you're gonna have to EQ this part of the mix for it to find some equilibrium, you know?
Okay. And yes, as a tip I can give, not only it would be important to use high pass filters on the kick sounds that don't need to occupy the low end because you already have, for example, the sub layer, but a very similar thing we can do with the high frequencies. Also, the kick drum elements that are mostly filling the lows and mids, maybe then they don't need to have high end because the high
Yeah,
end might come from other kick drum element. So it's also worth to try out using a low pass filter on some kick drum elements, and according to you, this should separate the sounds better, which in the end gives better kick drum dynamics.
yeah, you said it perfectly.
Thank you.
On this one, I'm gonna look for a large tail kick, something like that. Okay, so actually, I don't like that one because the tail is coming way too late, and I want a closer tail. Okay, like this one, and I'm gonna EQ it. Okay, so now they're clashing together, so So right now that I added this one, I'm gonna look for again the frequencies that disequilibrate the mix. Okay.
Right, you have said for another time that you hear some frequencies clashing, am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
My question would be, how did you learn to hear when you have problems with these frequencies clashing? Because
Uh,
it's, well, something important to, yes, keep the kick drum clean.
yeah. Actually, the mistake I was doing for a really long time too is thinking that the more low frequencies or mid frequencies or whatever frequencies you like, you want your kick to be heard the most, the better. And actually, you really like how I do it is that I'm listening to a lot of music on like I have speakers, so I'm listening, trying to understand how my music should sound on the speakers. So when I know that some frequencies I are way too above me, then that's how I know that it's unbalanced. Like it should be like flat in front of me. Like I know that's how my speakers sound. I know that it should sound flat. So when there is something way too far or way too close, I know that something is wrong.
So now in your speakers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's just like you have to. What I do also so, a lot of time is I put an EQ on the master and listen to I isolate frequencies, and in this way it's easier for me to hear which frequencies are a problem. If it's balanced or not, it has to be balanced. And so I listen to this track of KRTM and listen to this one. And this way I know that something is wrong.
Yes, the
Okay.
thing about using a low-pass filter on the master channel, this is a great tip if you want to isolate, for example, the low end. It is much easier to hear what is happening in the low end when the mid and high frequencies don't cover it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because it's a whole environment, and when you have the whole frequencies, like it's difficult to focus on certain frequencies. Here, compared to this one, we can hear that the boomy part is way too above. So I'm gonna look. Okay, this one is the one that is way too above. So now it's more balanced.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, okay. Here I'm hearing something that needs to be lower too. Okay, so now we can clearly hear the transients of the low key. And now we hear that in the high frequencies, a lack of balance too. So I'm gonna look for the element, and it's this one. So
The kick where we have the amp that gives too much of that noise and crispiness.
yeah, 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 it's way too much. So you really have to control it. Yeah.
Now I would like to notice that now it sounds like the kick has more, let's say, space to be filled with other instruments in the track.
Exactly. And that's why you want to balance correctly. You really have to work on the mix, like and really don't hesitate to compare to, because if you're trying to work with what we were working at the beginning, you're gonna just produce a track that is unplayable on some systems actually. And actually, when you're gonna compare it to another track, it's gonna be just horrible. What we can do next is looking for the lowest frequencies of this one. And actually look for another kick. So you see, finally, it's gonna be a lot of elements just for this kick.
Okay, and what the next kick will be used for?
It's gonna follow the tail of the high frequencies, but in the low ones.
Okay. Something like, for example, Krankenstler Rumble.
Yeah, something like this.
And wouldn't it be better if you used a delay on some of these kick drums instead?
Like a delay on yeah, actually, delay can be actually, I want a tail that is even, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because what I like in kicks is that they sound like just mean, you know, not that especially groovy. The groovy part is I can bring it with other elements that are not really part of the kick anymore, but that are gonna still play in the low frequencies.
Okay.
But what I start with is really like a mean kick. So okay. Now you can hear like the you have so yeah, it's the environment is more relevant.
Okay. But doesn't
Yeah,
it sound like the low frequencies are clashing now?
yeah.
understand that we are still looking for the places where the frequencies clash, right?
Exactly. So yeah, you have a perfect example of why it's better to do sound design because you just spend too much time looking for the good elements to fit in.
Instead of spending Instead of
Sorry?
spending hours on looking for samples, now you can spend hours on tweaking the effects.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sounds like a great deal.
yeah, totally, totally. So yeah, you see, like this part is quite nice, but now I have to look for the right low end.
And what do you exactly mean by that right low end?
Because actually the sub part is out of key with the rest. Yeah, no, it's my Van Gogh. It's not. Yeah. I'm gonna make it less white. So yeah, it's basically it's like now I have like now you have one of my older kicks.
So would you like to show us now your new way of making the kicks? That maybe in
Okay.
your opinion is also better?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna open a project I've been working on lately.
Now this looks complex. A group
Yeah,
inside of a group inside of a group inside of a group inside of a group.
inside of a group. Yeah,
Where do we begin with?
all these 40 channels, 40 layers for my kick.
Wait, well, let me ask you again because I think I don't believe it that much. Did you say
Okay.
40 channels for just the kick drum?
Yeah, that's right. But actually, there are parts of those layers that I finally didn't use. It was just ideas, but for real, I think there are like 30 layers, like 25 or 30 layers for the kick.
That's still a lot. And you are sure that if you turned any of these kick drum layers, you would hear a difference in the sound?
I would hear it, yeah. Not
Okay.
all of them. That's why like some channels are like ghost channels, but all the others are, yeah, clearly part of the environment.
Okay.
Starting from the beginning, so I am always beginning by the higher frequencies of my kick, which are just right here. So at first I began actually with a sample from my Kinox again. I've been using this trash too, using a lot of EQs because without them it sounds just like this and it's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of work to make it sound like this. I am using Serum, so it's kind of easier to make elements sound like I want. And I wanted some elements that go on stereo. So I've been designing this one and I've been putting some trash too on it again. Actually, you can expect like to have some trash too on each one. Also, to give it some movement, I put an LFO on this filter to cut the high frequencies because otherwise it's like this. And now it adds a little bit of movement. And yeah, it's kind of the same here, here. That's the click part. Like this one is just a sub with a lot of harmonics. This one and everything is in this group that I EQ'd a bit, and the whole thing with the sub part, which is this one. Yeah. So for the boomy part, I just put some 901, 909. And then for the subs, I used kind of the same process like you can see on this one, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I put again some reverb on it, and I EQ it, put some amps again. No, I didn't even compress it. But yeah, EQ it again, delayed it so it matches the rest of the elements. And it's the same for those ones. And yeah, it sounds like this in the total. And like this with the boomy parts. All the high frequencies sound like this. And the whole sound like this. So yeah, and the whole group is compressed because otherwise it would go like this. And again, on top of that, at some moments there are this group to add some crunchiness and hear some groove. And they are, yeah, basically Serum with some EQ and some trash too, some compression, but really a lot of EQ, because even though the trash 2 is still more controllable, it's still a lot of channels that needs to fit together, you know. That's for the elements I use. So yeah, it's just like a big sandwich, actually.
Okay. Can we take a look into the Serum presets, because it's just interesting that for the kick sound design you also add some synthesized sounds. I can only guess that some of the Serum presets are just the presets that indeed synthesize a simple kick drum you distort later, but also
Yeah,
some Serum channels sounds like they are just using a noise oscillator. What does it look like inside?
yeah, I can show you like maybe mm, like for example this one. Actually, I'm using some really big resolution filters with automations on it. And yeah, actually, I love using the noise because it adds a lot more of texture, like, because otherwise it sounds just like this.
Uh-huh.
And I pitched it to match the correct pitch of the kick. And yeah, and otherwise it's just like a normal designed kick. Actually, it's just again I put a lot of effects on it. Actually, this one not that much, you see, but yeah, automation on the high frequencies as well to add some movements. And yeah, for example, this one is the same. Like I really do put some LFOs on the resolution, and I choose a specific frequency at the beginning because I want the noise to have some punch at some specific frequencies that matches the other elements, you know. So yeah, like without the filter, it sounds like this. Without the noise, without the sub. So yeah, basically I start with the sub like this. I use I add some sub to that gives that grinchy noise too, and some
Mhm.
noise and then the filters, and you have that pumpy effects and some nice harmonics in the mids. Yeah, actually, like it's the same. Like really, I've been using Serum on my kicks for not so much time actually, like only a year.
Mhm.
But actually, for it, I was looking for tutorials on YouTube to know how to design a classic kick and to know how Serum works. And from that, I'm just trying things, you know. Also, it's just like you have to take some time and try some things, you know, until you finally have your sound. But if you want that distorted, crazy noise, like the noise is really, really nice, and you really want to try to have some dissonance, and that's what gives it this complex sound, actually. You can hear.
Oh, I see, I see.
You see, that's one is kind of funny.
It also sounds very KRTM like.
Sorry?
It also sounds very KRTM like.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the kind of sound I'm digging. And as you see, it's like really stereo, and that's what I love. Like when I mix my kicks, I'm trying to put the transients mostly in mono,
Mm-hmm.
and then this kind of sounds I really put them in stereo. Also, what I'm doing at some moments is that I'm setting the whole group of kick into this group here that has some trash too on it, and a delay and a little bit of EQ, of course. And this is what actually gives some nice groove and some more fullness.
I've also seen on the bottom
Sorry?
5 or maybe 6 different layers for the low end. There was another group at the bottom.
Yeah.
How did you manage the low frequencies so they don't overlap? It is still just EQing, or you are also added some sidechain compression here and there on top of everything?
Well, actually, I almost I put a little bit of section. Like as you see, like sometimes there are as I am using a reverb on those elements, sometimes there are harmonics that comes at some moments, but that I don't want, so I put an LFO on it, so it stays stable, like here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, mostly it's the same. It's just like I'm listening to the whole thing, and you see it's not across the channel. But actually, this is the one that takes the most space. And I over painted. But yeah, actually, I don't have any specific advice other than, again, you want to go on your master, cut those high frequencies and just listen, you know. But you have to listen also with once you did it in your group, you have to listen to also the other elements. So right here we can hear that actually the kick just took the space that the sub didn't feel, so it's great.
So there are two main differences between the way you used to make kick drums and the way you make kick drums now. At first, you are using way more kick drum layers, and
Yeah,
also you all started to use Serum synthesizer to fill the kick drum, yes, with more texture or and noise.
yeah.
Are there any extra differences?
It takes me even more time to do my kicks. Like actually the kick is a part that can take me like a few days just to have the perfect kick. The other elements is quite fast, like I can go fast for that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just like feeling the holes in the mix, and also how I want the kick to sound, because I want this kick to have some elements on stereo. I want them to be present in the mid frequencies. So I add elements that will fill those mid frequencies. That's the noisy parts that I made you listen to. I can add some other parts like this that are a little bit in stereo, or this one. I'm adding some elements, and when I listen to the whole kick, it gives me inspiration to fulfill the rest of the space. And actually, it's kind of difficult for me, because this type of kick takes a lot of space in the mix. So yeah, it's some hard work to make it to give the space for the other elements of the tracks to live. I'm gonna make you listen to the whole track. But you see how the elements comes also really to the stereo.
Yes, this is what makes the kick full. If you put the whole track in mono, yes, it would sound simply less powerful.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, I'm leaving some space on the frequencies, so I can put some of the transients in stereo too.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have uh, a layer here. Yeah, so this one and this one, you see, this one is really in stereo, because I have information on the stereo that is part of the attack of the kick. So I also want some transients in stereo. Again, as you see, I have a lot of tracks, of reference tracks. Actually, I take some really completely different tracks, because I want to keep in mind that what I have to look for is not reproducing the same kicks or the same attacks or anything. It's just knowing that what's important is hearing the transients.
Mm-hmm. Yes, if you had a single reference track, when you were later mixing a track, you could try to make your track sound too much like the reference.
Yeah,
Is that
or
it?
actually you really have to find a track where you clearly want to go in this style of kick. But actually, I don't really have a track I know that where I want to reproduce exactly the same image,
Okay.
the same mix. So I just take a lot of different tracks.
And maybe in the end, I could ask you about the group processing of the whole kick drum, because, for example, I haven't seen yet any multiband compressor, and I was
Yeah,
wondering if you are using such effects now on the kick drums.
not even actually, not at all. Um, so what I'm putting is a clipper. and just an EQ on the whole master.
Mm-hmm.
But on each channel, like this one is just the top layer, so I've just put some EQs on it. But on the first big part, like you see, I put some EQs. On this group, I put some EQs. But yeah, I'm not using actually a lot of compression. I have one compressor right here, and that's a preset from Ableton. But yeah, but that's it. Actually, I'm just using distortion, distortion, and just one compressor on it, but and some EQs, and that's it. Yeah.
So, in the end of today's session, do you have something to say? Usually, now I ask producers about some kind of overall advice to beginner producers. If you have any wisdom, you can share it right in the end of this video.
Okay. Well, what I would say and what would have given me less time lost is protect your ears because when you have problem with your ears, it's for your whole life and it's gonna totally fuck up your way of work and it's gonna suck because you're gonna do bad music for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hesitate to if you know producers in your city that you can meet. Like it really helped me a lot to have someone who produces music too, with who I can do music, even though if it's not the same style. Like I have my best friend who does drum and bass, and she gave me so much advices, uh, or even just by looking at her producing, like it gave me so much ideas, or even some. I had some struggles, and she had the solutions to those problems, and now it's easier for me to get to my sound. And really, the biggest thing that helped me lately is really to sound design your own elements, because as you see, this kick is like has 30 layers, but it takes me the same time as when I was doing like 5 layers to produce music. So yeah, sound designing is really something you'd like to look for because it will make your life way easier.